Hello and welcome to another tutorial of React. Here we are continue building our application. Currently we're focusing on the UI of the app. In this tutorial we're building a bunch of reusable buttons with options. We have colors and sizes. This is a demonstration of the final results of our components. Now here we have the avatar with a profile picture or with the initials of the name. We have also the classical buttons. We have icon buttons. It could be avatar. This is the default avatar in case the user doesn't have a profile or we don't want to display the initials. We also have we can place any icon. Of course, this is the purpose of an icon button. Alright, so these buttons of course can have a loading state. As you can see, once they are in a loading state, they will be at the same time disabled. They have, of course, the disabled state, which reduces the opacity and they will be inaccessible. And the state will be like they are already pressed. Next, once we finish building this UI component, we'll apply them to our website. In the header, for example, we'll have for the profile. For the mobile, I have the nav toggle button, which will use the icon button. Next, we will apply it also in the book details photo section. We'll use the icon button for the delete icon. Of course, we have disabled now some functionality. Let's get to it. Let's start developing this button. As you will see, they are not complex tasks. It looks like there's a lot of work. In reality, we'll be using some creative ideas that will help us build quickly this kind of reusable component. In terms of code, here is the code, for example, for the avatar with all its options. This is the component including all the CSS. This is for the button, including also everything from CSS to animation to all the options from color to sizes. Disable, loading, everything is here. This is the button component. This is the icon button component with animation. All the style sheet are here. All the options, all the everything. So here in my Visual Studio Code, I have the project open. Just before starting, I would like to point something that I have made some updates to the GitHub for our project. The update consists of folder organizing. So we have changed the folder structure of our application a little bit. Now in the UI, if you go to the SRC UI, we have added some new folders. One of them is the core. The core contains the core element or the basic element like backdrop. I have now avatar, which is empty. We'll start working on it very shortly. We have the button divider. Some basic element will be in the core. The other folder for some UI elements that contain more than one file, so we'll group them in a folder like the gallery, the toaster, and the other element are UI components that rely on a couple of core components. So this is for the UI folder. The page folder is still the same, but if you go to the components folder, you will see they have new folders. This folder matches the name of the component in the pages, but in kebab case. So as you can see, book details have now a folder called book details. Book list now have a folder called booklets, which contains the related file. And we have the general folder, the book, which have a component related to all the book component in pages. So it has shared component. Now enough in this new update. First, let's start by creating the avatar component, which allow us to display the profile photo in a circular shape. If there's no profile, it can display the initials of the username or display name. In case no profile photo and we don't want to display the initial, we can display the default avatar image. Now, in my UI folder, I have prepared already an avatar.js file. So we'll start with a functional component. Now we'll import the styled component. We'll create a constant. We'll name it styled avatar, which is the main wrapper of the component. It will be a span element. Now inside of it we'll add some styles for this component. We'll add a width, will be hard coded to 60 pixel, height also 60 pixel, border radius it will be maximum. The background color will be for now anything, so let's make it gray. The color, let's make it white. Let's see, make the gray a little bit darker, for example 666. The font size, in case there will be the initial of the user, will be something like, let's say 14 pixel. Font weight 500, semi-bold. Overflow hidden, in case there's an image. The display is inline flex. We're using the inline flex to make the element display inline in relation to its siblings. So you can stack vertically multiple, let's say multiple avatar, align items center, and justify content also center. This will help us center the initials letters. In case there's an image profile, we'll make its width 100%. Here we'll return first, of course, the wrapper will be styled avatar. Now inside of it will be, for now we'll start building the only option, the image. The src of the image will be prop.image, which will get it through props. The alt will be user profile, and that's it for now. Let's test it in our home page. So if I go to pages home, here I can add, let's import first the divider, then we'll add the component avatar. Visual Studio Code will automatically import the component for us. Now here we'll specify an image, which I'll grab one from Unsplashed. This link will randomly choose an image from Unsplash and returns it. So here we're set. Let's test this component and see how it look. Alright. Now before working on the option, let's allow the user to be able to add initials. Now let's create the default profile icon. It will be an SVG. So in case the photo is not available or the user didn't provide a photo, then we'll provide a default profile image, and this image will be, as I told you, will be an SVG, and we'll create it as a component. I will create in the UI a folder. I will name it assets. Inside this folder I will create a file named profile.js. This will be our profile component. It will return an SVG. So for the return I will use this SVG here. This SVG has been generated by Adobe Illustrator, which here I created a simple profile drawing, and you can export your vector drawing as SVG. It's very easy, like this. Then you can show the code and copy this code. Now what I have did is, for the object ID I have used the minimal option, and I have copied this code, and I have changed the class to class name for React, and that's it. Now for the style sheet I removed them, and I created here a custom React component which will use styled component. Here this is the styled SVG, which contain these styles that are provided by Adobe Illustrator. So here in the auto-generate SVG, Adobe Illustrator created these styles here with fill none, stroke 444. I simply copied them and put them in a styled component. This way you can have some option if you want for the user concerning the color and all this stuff. So this is it for the profile. Now I'll import this component here in my avatar component. So here we'll have a check in case there's an image. If props.image is provided, we'll return the image component, else we'll return the profile component. Alright, so let's see how it look. If we didn't provide an image for our component, let's see what will happen. So this is it. Now we can, of course, customize this a little bit. So what we will do here in our avatar component, we will style a little bit the SVG. So we can, of course, target the SVG as simple HTML and CSS. I will set it width to 75%. Plus then I will target the, let me check the profile here, the class name A. I want to change this color here. I will target the class A and set the stroke to another color, the color we are using here for the text. It will be, for now it will be white. So much better. This is our component in case no photo is provided. Now, in case there's no profile picture and the user want to display the initials, so we can also allow this option. So here we have another check. So if there's no image, then we'll check if there's the initials, there's the name props, then we'll use the initials. So let's create a variable. We'll name it display. By default, it will contain the profile. Now we'll do some checks here. If image, sorry, this need to be capital because it will contain a component. If display, if image display will be equal to the image here. Else, so if not image, so always we favorize the image option, but if there's no image, we check if there's the name option. So props.name here, it is props.image. So we'll check the props.name. If there is, then the display will be equal to a span element. Inside of it, for now, I will just put the name like it is. So name, props.name, we'll fix that very shortly concerning the name to provide only the initials of the strings. So now here I will use the display. Actually, the display doesn't need to be a capital case, I guess, because we're not using it as a component anyway. All right, let's make sure it works first. All right, still the component is working normally. Now let me add a name. So name, let's say John Doe. And here I have the name John Doe. Now let's create a function to get the initial from a string. Now this function will be inside the functions folder, which we are grouping the JavaScript functions by subject. So here we have the string fn. We'll create inside of it the function initials. It get the name. Now we'll return first. What we'll do, we'll split the name. So name.split, we'll spread it on space. So if it's John Doe, now we have an array with two items, John and Doe. Now we'll map through each element of the array, and what we return is the first character of each word. So w.char at 0 will give us the first letter. All right, so now instead of having John and Doe, we'll have G and D. Now we'll join this array into a single string without any separator, so no spaces between the two string or anything. And finally, we'll make them uppercase. And this is it. Now let's export this function and import it into avatar. So import initials, it's not capital case, import initials from function/string fn. Now with the initials, we can use it like any normal function on the props.name. And if everything we did is right, there's no error typo. Initial is not exported. It seems there is a naming problem here. It's not capital. So if we test, perfect. There's a comma. Weird. So it seems join by default add a comma. Let's give it an empty string. And here it is, working as expected. Now let's work on the options, colors and sizes. Again, in my avatar component, first I will pass the props to the styled avatar, which will receive the option and add some conditional manipulation to our styles on the top using the provided props. Now here I will extract some props like the image and the name and provide the rest again into the same props variable. So here instead of props dot, we'll just use image and name. Now having the props, I expect to have from the user as optional props the size and the BG for the color, and the color in case you want to change the color of the text. So we will get these variables, but they might be empty. So first we will make sure that they are not empty. So we'll set some defaults for these props using the attr, which require as a parameter a function, and this function need to return an object that contains the props. These props will be passed in the style sheet, and we can use them to apply some variables to our styles. So here we have, as we said, the BG, the background, which will be with the parameter here, we'll get the props. I will name it P. I will check for p.bg. If it's available, I will return it. If not, I will return a color. By default, it will be light. Now, for the color, if the user provide a color, I will use it. If not, I'll use the BG. So I will use this. So what I will do here is I will create a variable. So instead of returning directly an object, I will create the function body that will return a function, and I will create a BG constant that will be equal to this statement here, and I will assign it to BG. Then I will use it here. So if the user didn't provide a color, I will use the BG, adding to it the keyword contrast. What does this mean actually, adding the keyword contrast? If we have watched my previous video on how we have created our theme, you will know that here in our global style we have color packs. If a user defined, for example, primary, I can append to it the dash contrast and get the contrasting color which is suitable for text on the primary color. I can get the dash over, and I can get the dash RBG if I want the format to be an RBG of the color. So these options are available, and I can get them in this manner here. So now if the user defined a primary, so we'll get here primary dash color, then we'll add to it, once we use it here in the styles, we'll add to it the dash color. So we'll get then the color defined here in our theme variables. Let's take an example. For example, for the background color, now I can use the var. Alright, inside the var I will add the dash color dash. Now here I will print our variable .bg. This is for the background color. Now if we save, now remember by default it is light, and here in my home page where I am displaying an avatar, if I don't specify a BG prop, I will get the light color. So now it is light. We don't see anything because the light color is the same as the background, and the text we set it to white. Let's fix that quickly. Here for the color also we'll use the same, but now instead of BG we'll use the color. So remember, for the color here we're using light. Now we're using the contrast for the light, and let me check in my global style for the light. Did I have specified the contrast for the light here, which is dark. If I check my browser, here it is. Now we have the color dark, the contrast work. Now if I choose another color by providing the BG parameter, if I choose any color in my theme, we have dark, light. Let me choose the primary here. We have the contrast, which is great. So it's supposed to work automatically. Here is my primary color working perfectly. Now this is concerning the color. We have everything set up. Let us test also the color. So I chose primary now for the color. Currently it is white. Let me change it to dark. And here it is dark. Perfect. What about providing an image along with the name? Let's see who win. So if there's image and there is name, what do I get? Now if there's no image and no name, what do I get? I get the profile. Now the color is white. Now it works on the primary by chance, but if it's not primary, then boom, it's not visible. So we'll set also the color for the SVG to a contrasting color, or the color provided by the user. Boom, it worked perfectly. Let me try the dark. Boom, perfect. Now the color is working fine. Alright, now let's work on the sizes. So here we expect the user to provide us a size prop. So if it's available, we'll use it. If not, we'll provide a default size of 6, which is somewhat average. Now this number here, the 6, represent a variable in my theme. So if I go to my theme, you can watch my video on how to create this theme and how to set up this theme. Now here I have 0 through 1. Those are the sizes that I will use. So the user can provide any of these number. It will be available. Now I have updated this file actually to have 10. I will grab it. Now this is my updated theme. Here you can see I have option from 0 to 10. This is for space. Now relying on the variables from my theme, what I can do here is I can, for the width and height, I can set the width using the var space dash. Now I will use the variable, the prop provided by the user, which is p.size. And if the user didn't provide the prop size, it will default to 6. Now the same for the height. Alright, now we have the width and height specified. Let us see it how it looks. Now as you can see, it looks a little bit smaller than before. Let me make sure by changing the size of the avatar to, let's say, 8, and boom, here it is. This is the size 8, which is perfect. Now let me change the color, so bg equal to, let's say, primary here. So here it is. This is our size 8. Now what about the initials? Let me use the name John Doe. Oh, it is small. So let us fix the font size to adapt to the size of the avatar, so to be responsive. So in our avatar.js component, here we need to, instead of hard coding the size of the font, now we'll use a var. And in our theme, we also have variable for the font size, which range from 1 to 10. So they have the same range of the space, so they work perfect together. Now I can here copy the var and use the one for the font size, which name is fsize. And for the font size, I will specify the variable in relation to the size provided by the user. Now if I check my browser, here it is working perfectly. You see, this is it. As easy as that. Now you have a component with color and size options. The user can specify. Let us use a small one, 5, to see how it look on small sizes. It's okay. What about 4? No, started to look off. So what about 3? No. 3 is not good. So let's fix this by providing extra space for the width and height. We can do this with the calc function. Here we can provide plus 5 pixel. The same for the height. Now 5 pixels should be enough for these small sizes. So, oh, it's a great for small size like 2. This is, or 3, I mean, this is fantastic. How to look? Awesome, even 2 work. What about 1? Ooh, it is not bad. Also it works. So this is great. Let me check the biggest one, the 10. Awesome. Let me change the color to secondary. Awesome. So we have the avatar icon done. It's ready to be shipped. Next, we'll be working on the button. Now we already have the button set up, but I want to update the button component also to have the color and sizes available. Now the button only have the color, and for now it look off because I have modified the theme here sizes while I was working on the avatar icon. This is an old code, so let's update the code. Now before I start with the button, one thing I would like to grab your attention is about this option here provided as a props by the user. As you can see, these options now are directly tied to our theme. Whatever here is available in the theme, we can use it as an option. So here, if I check the theme, I'll see there is an orange color. So I can use orange. And I got the orange. I saw also a blue color. I can use the blue. And here is the blue. So they are directly tied to the theme. Whatever I provide here, it will be available as an option to the user. No need to modify avatar anymore. I can provide any color I want. I can provide, let's say, a fuchsia color. It will be automatically available as an option for the user to use. Same for these spaces. I can add here an 11, space 11. I just need to make sure that there is a font size 11. This is the beauty of this method. Alright, now let's go to work on the button. Here we have some cleaning to do. This is an old code, and let's update it to look something clear like this code. So as we know, we need the attribute here to provide the default styles. What we can do is copy it as it is, because the same option are available for the button. No need to. Now here's the button. Other than this option, we have a special option, which is the outline. So the button can have an outline style, but this is no problem for our case, as you will see. Now here in this function, I'll do some changes quickly concerning the size. I will move it to its own constant. I will name it size, which will be equal to the same statement, and I will assign size to the size variable. Now here I'll use the tick. I think this is better. I think this is better for readability. So I'll copy the same code here. Much better. Now for the border here, I was relying on a variable called border color. This variable is only used on the button. Now I will get rid of this variable and I will use an RGBA of 000 and 0.8 for the opacity. This is for the border. Now for the background color. Now here I was providing the default inline in the CSS code. I have solved this now by using the attr function, which I don't need anymore to specify the default here. And here the variant now is named BG for background color. This is for the background color. Same for the color. Now I need only to use the color. I don't need anymore to specify the default nor provide the contrast modifier. So I'll remove the contrast. I'll remove here the default and I will use the color directly. Now for the height, I was using a special variable for the button named height button. But now I want the user to specify the height, same as the avatar, by providing a size variable, which could be any number that is available in our theme. So here, what I will do is remove this variable and use the space in relation to the size prop. So this is for the height. Now the width will stay auto. Now for the min width, I'll just remove it. Now for the padding here, I'm specifying the left and right padding for the button. I'm using a variable called px button in my global style. The px button is set to size 2, which is 9 pixels. Now this is a fixed size here for the padding, which is not good to have a fixed size since we are providing variable size. So I'll use here a variable, the space, and I will make it relative to the size provided by the user here, p.size. Now this is for the padding. Now it may seem a little bit too much, I guess. Let us check. So this is the padding. Let me create in my home a component for the button. Now I'll add a prop for the button, the size. Now by default it is 6. Let me increase it to 8. Let it be an integer 8. Now here is my 8 pixel button. Now we have problem of the text and the padding seem too much. So let's fix the padding, then the font. So for the padding I will multiply it by a number less than 1, for example 0.4, which will reduce the size in the proportion of how much size will grow. So the more size will grow, the more the reduction. If I check now, I see the padding is something acceptable. Now for the font size, we have specified here a fixed size of 3. Let us make it relative to the user choice. So we'll use the p.size here too. Oh, somewhat big for a button label. So what I will do here is reduce this p.size minus 3. So if the user provide, let's say here we are providing size 8, for the font we'll make it minus 3, it will be 5. So if we check, it looks something acceptable. Now what about the user choose size 3? Now 3 minus 3 is 0. There is no font 0, not even for 2. So we'll provide here a default font size for the small sizes, which will be a var of f size 1. This is the smallest size possible. I will add a couple of styles for the button. The overflow will be hidden. The position will be relative in case I want to add icon to the button. Of course, I will add the loading icon. Plus, I want to add transition for the background color, which will be 0.2 second with the default ease. Then for the box shadow, which will have the same values for the time and the ease. Now here for the hover, once the user hovers the button, I will use the BG color, adding to it the hover. Sorry, it's a single dash. This is for the BG. Now, in case there's no hover for the color, which we have a couple of color with no hover, I will add simply the BG color without hover. Now for the border color, it will be the same, I guess. We'll change it a little bit, RGBA. Now here I noticed I provided an extremely black, so 0.8. Here it will increase to 15, from 0.8 to 15. This is for the border color. Now I'll make sure the hover only is activated when the button is enabled. So in case if it's disabled, I don't want an interaction on it. Now for the active, I'm removing here the box shadow. I want also to remove the box shadow in case if it's disabled. So I will not use the enabled here modifier. What I will do is add the option for the disabled. Now for the active, when the button is enabled, I will add the same box shadow. It will be this time inset, so from the inside, and I will reduce the opacity, and I will make some changes here concerning the blur and the size of the shadow. Now also I want this to be on the disabled, so I will use it here in the active once for all. Let's remove this. Now only when it's disabled, I want to add an opacity of 0.7. If I check it in my browser, oh, it's perfect. Oh, the active is not working. Why? Oh, it seems like the hover is overruling the rules of the active because it has the enabled. So what I will do, I will add the enabled, and I will add the and disabled here. If I click, now it works. Now if I disable the button here in my home page, I'll add the disabled attribute. Alright, this is what I want. Perfect. Now let's continue working on the outline variation style of the button. First, for the outline style, we have to inverse the color. So here we'll use for the border color the BG, and for the color also we'll use the BG color. Now for the hover, we'll add the enabled. So only for the enabled will be hover. Now here, once you hover an outline button, the color will flip. So the background color now will be the BG, and the color will be the BG contrast. Alright, now for the enabled active, we need to increase the intensity of the background color, and we can do this by using the var color BG. This time we'll specify the hover variation. Now in case there's no hover, we use the BG as it is to keep a color. Now this is it for the outline. We can give it a test by adding for the button an outline prop, BG any color, let's say for example dark. Alright, this is the dark variation. Now we can test also for the primary as an example. Alright, this is the primary variation, and this is the active state of the button. All is good. Now we have the loading option, which if I activate, now it's working okay, but the problem, as you see, the button is changing its size. I don't want to change the actual size of the button. So instead of replacing the label, I will hide the label. So here, if I go to my button.js, in the return of the component, I'm checking if there's a loading, I'm displaying the loading, and I'm hiding the label. So what I need to do is keep the label. So I will add here a span with a class of label that will contain the label inside with the rest.props. So this is the label, will always be available. Now for the loading, we'll just make sure the loading prop is provided by user. In case yes, then we'll display along with the label the loading component. We need to add some style in case we have loading. So here we are not passing the loading with the props, the rest doesn't have the loading. So what I will do, this is here a special case for the loading, because the loading now is defaulting to true or false. If I pass here a prop like loading equal to loading, and the loading is a boolean, React will complain about passing a boolean, either need to be string or a number. So to prevent any error from displaying on the console, what I will do is override the prop with a new object that contains the old props along with the loading prop, which I'll transform it into a number 10 for true or false. So I will typecast it to number the rest.props. So here what I will do, I will again keep the props as it is, and here I'll be using the props.loading. Instead of rest, I will using the props, which is more clear for the developer who will be working on this component. I am overriding the disabled, so in case a user need to provide a disabled, it will not work because I'm overriding it to have the value of the props.loading. So I need to, so what I will do, I'll do a better code by creating a new object. This object will contain the props, and I will override the disabled all right, with. Now here I'll make a check. If it is loading, it will be disabled, whether the user has provided the disabled props or not. It will always be disabled, props.loading. If it's not loading, now I will rely on whether the user has provided a disabled props or not. So this will keep the disabled functional as usual unless the button is loading. So now let's add the styles for the loading. Now, similar as I'm doing here, I'm checking for the outline. Now I will check for the loading. So in case there is a loading is true, I will add a CSS. Now, all right, now here for the loading, it need to be, of course, props. Then maybe the props.loading. Now there are, of course, the case where the user hasn't provided the loading props. Here I will default it to 0. And concerning the loading here, I need to provide to it a class name. So span.loading in order to position it appropriately. Now here for props.loading, as we are typecasting it to number, so in case if it's 0, it will return and not display this one, but it will type on the screen a 0. So to prevent this, we'll use the ternary operation and add, for the second case, here we'll add an empty string to prevent from displaying a 0 on the screen. Here for the CSS, first the span.label will have an opacity of 0. Next we'll target the span.loading. Now here it will have position solute. The top will be 0, the bottom will be 0. Width will be 100%, the same for the height. Now for the font we will use the var and it will be in relation to the size property, so we'll center it using the flex. Alright, so it should work as we intend. So here we are adding the loading to the getting started button. Let's have a look. Something is off concerning the label. We're doing a mistake. It's props.children. Bottom, left 0. So here it is entered. Now it is a little bit too much big. I will reduce from the size -1. Now here I'll make sure the provided size is a number by casting it to number. Alright, all seem to be good. And here it is, our loading state working perfectly and working in harmony with the color. So let me change the color and make sure it is. So if I choose now secondary, which is the blue color, and yep, it is working perfectly. So let's remove the loading and make sure it's working good. All right, so fantastic. All right, now this is for the button. Next we'll be creating the icon button, which will be a rounded button that can display icon, photo, or any component in a circle shape. Now before getting on with the icon button, I want to install the font Awesome. So here I will, using yarn, I will add the core of the font Awesome. So there's three library, the core. Next we'll be adding the solid pack. So here is the solid pack, solid style of the icon, which is free. And finally we'll add the React font Awesome, which we'll be using in our React application. So to give you an example on how this works, first what you need to know is that we'll provide for you the SVG version of the font Awesome icon, which is better than the font version. So if now I tested on the loading component, which I was using the font version. Now what I can do is I can import here. Let me grab it. Let me copy it. I can import font awesome icon from font awesome React. Then I will import the icon I need in this component. Here I need the FA circle notch. Now using the font awesome icon component, I will replace this, provide to it the icon that I have imported, the FA circle notch. Then if I add to it a spin prop, this will add to it a spin animation. So that's it. Now here in my home, let me add again the loading prop for my, and make sure I did everything correct. So here it is, working fine. Now back to our main task, the icon button. So here we have already an icon button, so it's not much, but we'll make it work as the other component we have just created. So here I will rename this div to styled button. Here we were using the loading component. Now we'll be creating our custom loading for this for the icon button, which will be a border that will rotate or spin around the icon. Now here styled button will return actually a button, and of course we'll use the atters. Now for the atters, I'll copy the same function I'm using for the button and the avatar. So it's this function here. Now we have provided the default values for our props needed for this, to style the icon button. Now styled button need to be used instead of this div. Now here I'll be using the same style for our button here concerning how to handle the props and the loading and the disabled. So I can copy the same code and put it here. Of course here it will be props. Now here I'm providing some specific props. Also this will change to be the same as what we did here, for it to be open to any props the user provide, whether it's disabled, whether it's a title, any HTML prop he provide, it will be transferred to the underlying button we have specified here. So far so good. Now here there's no more check for loading. Here we'll expect the user to whether provide us an icon as a prop or a component, which we'll grab in props.children. So here all of this, we don't need it anymore. What we need to do is check if the user has provided an icon. In case he has provided an icon, then we will import the library font awesome icon, which will take an icon as a parameter. Now here I'll use the one provided by the user, the props.icon. Now if he didn't provide an icon, most probably he has provided a children component. So we'll grab this and display it wrapped by the styled button this time. So for the styled button, now here we have a lot of changes concerning these styles. The obvious is it will have a border radius for it to be totally radius, or you can use 50%, whatever, both work. Now we have the width and the height. Now concerning the width and the height, they will be using the size prop provided by the user. I can go to my avatar and copy, since they both share the same circle style, so I can copy the width and height. All right, I'm sorry, it should not be here. These styles should be here at the root. Now here I was checking for the color. Now we don't need anymore to check for the color, neither for the size, as we are working with them in line. inside the styles specification. So now we have the width and the height. It is circle. Now imagine we have an icon. So the next thing we need. Now this also will have an outline style, but here the default will be the outline, and if he wanted solid, he need to specify solid. So by default it will have a background color of transparent. Now for the border, I'll keep the border for later. There's no border. Now for the color, the same as for the avatar, we'll be using the color provided by the user. Remember that here we are providing the default value in case the user hasn't provided the color. Of course, padding will make it 0, and overflow hidden, which needed in case the user provided an image. Now we need to center the icon. So to center the icon, we'll use flex. So display inline flex, the center vertically and horizontally. So the icon now is centered on the button. Of course, we need to specify the font size, which as we have used before. So I can go here and copy it as it is. So this will be the font size for the icon. The position will be relative to be able to position the image properly. All right, so let's give it a try now with the style we have added to see how it look. So back in my home.js component, now I'll add the icon button. All right, now this icon, I will specify the size, or let's keep the defaults for now, and let's use an icon for it, of course. Now I will import an icon example. Here I'll import the FA robot or coffee. So I will provide to my icon button the icon FA coffee. Now let's have a look in our browser. Now here is my icon. It's okay for now, but as I see, the coffee is too big somewhat, and I don't need the border actually. I don't know where the border came from. Oh, by default a button has a border. So I'll make the border transparent. Now I'll keep it into 4 pixel transparent border because I'll be using it later. So I'll be adding a hover effect with the border. So I'll keep it transparent and color it once the user mouse over the button. Now this is our icon button. Okay, it started to look something, but we haven't yet done. No hover and nothing yet. And this is the default size we're seeing, the 6. Now let us change the size to see how it will take it. So if I make it size 5. All right. This is the size that will be mostly used in our app. So size 6 work fine. Size, let's say 8. Perfect. So all is good. Now let me add a divider at the button so we can be able to see it more clearly. All right. Now let's continue styling the hover effect of the icon button. Now for the hover effect, only when the button is enabled. So we'll add a transparent background color RGBA. Now we'll be using, of course, the color provided by the user, which is we haven't used it yet, but let's copy this var here. Now for the RGBA, we don't need the hexadecimal, so we'll add the variant RGB. Of course, it will be here the BG, the background color, specified by the user. And here also, for the color, we'll use the background color specified by the user. Now here, in case the color doesn't have the variant RGB, we'll use our default color dark, so it will be color dash dark dash RGB, which we are sure it has the RGB variant. This one need to be inside the var. So, and next we'll be adding the transparency, which will be 0.15. Now if I have a quick look, something is not right. So for the BG here, by default we're setting it to light. We'll change this to dark. So this is by default, and here is the effect on hover. Now we'll be adding the transition, same as for the button, so we'll copy it from the button. Here we have added the transition for the background color and the box shadow. We'll need both. For the solid also we need the box shadow once we create the solid variant of this icon. So here is our animation. Now it is smooth. Next we'll need to add for the active. Here I will add for the active, I will rely on the opacity. I will make it 0.6. Now the same for the disabled. So they will both have the same style. This is the active state. Once you click it, it will have a little bit of transparency. Now concerning the space around the icon is a little bit tight. Now I guess if we check the smaller value, like let's say 4. Oh, it is too tight. So what we'll do, we'll add, instead of the additional 5 pixel here, we'll add something like 40 pixel. So this way it is better. The icon is fully visible and work on small sizes better. Now this is it for the default variant, which is the outlined variant. Now let's work on the solid variant. Now for the solid variant, the user need to specify a prop solid to be true. So we'll check if he have provided the solid prop. Then we'll add the proper CSS for the solid icon. Now the solid icon will have a background color of the BG provided by the user. So we'll copy the color here for the background. And for the color, it will have the contrast variant of the background color. So we'll add the contrast. It will have a box shadow of 0, 1 pixel for the position. Now for the blur, 2 pixel, and for the size, it will be 1 pixel. The color of the shadow will be a transparent black, 0.15 for the transparency. Now for the hover, only if it's enabled, we'll add a background color with the variant hover. In case the color doesn't have the variant hover, we'll add it as it is, so there will be no change in color. We can make sure of this behavior by testing. So here is the hover. No, this is, let's use the solid. So we need to add solid. Now here, as you remember, by default we have the dark color. So once I hover, the color will be darker, which is the hover variant of the dark. Now if I change the BG to, let's say, primary, alright, this is our primary color, and as you can see, the hover work. Now for the active state, first I need to remove the shadow. So here I'll add, if it's active, shadow none, sorry, box shadow none. Now we can check for the disabled property. Alright, this is when it is disabled. Now I see there is a shadow still. So let's fix this. Back in my icon button, this shadow here, I can provided by default when the button is active or disabled, or remove the shadow. So it works for both cases. So here I don't need to provide it anymore because I did at the top. So no need for the solid to have a specific case for this. Now here is the shadow has been removed and the button is disabled with an opacity of 0.6. All right, now let's create the loading. Now if I go to my home and add, instead of disabled, let's add a loading. What happened? Now nothing, there's no loading. So let's work on the loading. So concerning the loading for the icon button, it will be a rotative pseudo element, the before, which will add to it an animation that will make it spin, and it will have a border of 3 sides. One side will be without border, so we create some kind of a knot, circle with a knot, and it will be spinning all the time once the loading is active. So let's add the style for the loading. So if the user provided the loading prop, we'll add the appropriate CSS to the button. First we'll add the after pseudo element, which have a content of empty string. Now the position will be absolute, the width will be 100%, the height 2, the border radius of course will be a circle. Now the border will be activated on all sides by default, so I put any color black. Now here we need to add 4 colors. 3 will be the color specified by the user for the BG props, and the last one will be transparent, so it will look like a circle with a knot. So once we spin it, it will look like spinning. So here we can use the var dash dash color dash. Now here we'll use the BG. Now we need to use this 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and the last one is transparent. This is for the border color. Now I expect to see a border color. All right, so this is our border. Now if we want to rotate it, we need to add an animation. Now to add an animation, we need the keyframe function. Now the keyframe function allow us to define a CSS animation that will be only available to this component. Of course, if I add it with this styles here, it will be global. So with the keyframe, I can specify it here for this component. So I will specify here the animation, which will be named as spin. Now it starts with 0 degree rotation and rotate to 300 degree and keep repeating this motion. So now here I'll add the animation. If we have the loading case, we'll add the animation, which we specify the name like this here using the interpolation, 0.8 for the second, linear for the easing, and infinite, which will make it keep rotating. So if I go to my browser now and have a look, boom, here it is, the animation. Now this is a small button. Now if I increase it to, let's say, 5, all right, this is looking good. Let's try it for the solid. Now for the solid, of course, we can't see the spinning circle because the color is the same. So we need to add a condition in case if we have a solid case, solid style. So here, if we have solid style, we need to add the variant contrast. So we have the contrasting color against the solid color. So to do this, we need to check for each one. If we have solids, then we'll add the contrasting. So to solve us some typing, what we will do is we'll use here a function. With this function also that will receive the p. Now we can return this statement. Now we'll get rid of this function. We'll use directly the p.bg since we're getting here in the parameter. And what we will do being here, we'll make it into a string. And we'll make this into a string, the close parenthesis. We'll add a space after it. And we'll add a plus. So we need to return, we are returning this. Here I need, of course, to remove this interpolation because we are not into ticks. So this is it. Now this I will repeat. I will add the dot repeat to it 3 times. Now here I need to add my condition. Now here I'm closing it. I need to add a condition to check if solid is provided in the props. Then instead of directly closing it, I will add the contrast variation. So here we'll add the condition inside another parenthesis, and we check for p.solid. If yes, we'll if not, we'll add what we were been doing. We'll close the parenthesis for the var. Now else, instead of directly closing the parenthesis, we'll add the contrast. So this, let's see it. Let's see if it's work. Oh, we made a mistake. It is not dash dash, it's 1 dash. All right, so this is working for the solid style, which is good. Now we have our loading animation working perfectly. Now we haven't checked if we provided a children like the avatar to see how it look. So let's do it. Let's make a test of the icon by using a custom component like the avatar, which is a common case to use an icon button with an avatar. So I will copy the icon button. Now I'll create a new one. Now I'll provide to it, instead of the icon, a child. It will be the avatar. So I can grab this one as an example. All right. Now here, make sure to have the same sizes for the, let's give it 7 for the icon button and the avatar, and you can have different color. Let's try it. All right. So here we're providing it the loading state. If I remove the loading state, all right, if I remove the solid, all right, this is it. Now for the solid, it seems it's all right. You get this style of avatar. If you want it to be solid, it work. You can make it light, for example. Sorry, not here. Here, you can make it light, so it is visually more interesting. Now I chose the blue. I can make it also light. We'll see what kind of mix we are doing. So here it is. All right. So, and I can choose both to be, let's say, primary. So here they are. This is the primary color. All right. We can remove the solid and check it out. All right. Now for the icon here, it is a little bit tight. What we can do, we can give it a little bit more space by here. For the width, we can subtract from it -6 pixels. Here we can remove the border. Let's add border width. Let's make it 0. All right, so we have removed the transparent border, and with the -6 it worked perfect. Now if we add loading to the avatar button, no, it's not working good. So for the avatar, let's subtract a bigger number. Let's say let's make a condition then. So we'll add the function and we'll check for the p.icon. If we are providing an icon, then it will be a 6 pixel, but if not, then we'll do something like, I don't know, 13 pixel maybe. Oh, here it should be a function to be able to get the p for the props. So let's check it. Oh, we are setting it to color primary, and this won't work with our solid color. So we need to fix this first here. So we're checking if p.solid. Oh, here it's not solid, but the avatar has a solid background. So we'll check for p.solid and p.icon. If it's not solid and icon, we won't add the contrast, but other cases we will be adding the contrast. All right, so this is working good. Perfect. Now let's test all the variation. I have the script that will show us all the variation. I will copy it. So I will replace the home page with this script that will show us all the variation, and we will see if we did any mistake. Good. This is the light. It's supposed to be on a dark background, the outline light. So all is seem to be good here. Similar, this one, it's supposed to be on a light background, which is not visible. All right, let's test the loading state. All seem to be good here. The loading is working good. Now let us use these new UI components to replace our current header using an avatar. So in our header file, in the component layout header, here we need to replace both of these elements with a avatar button. So it will have a tooltip, of course. It will show some information regarding the user account, and it will be clickable. Later on we'll be adding a popover. So for now we'll go to header. So instead of typing the email this way, we'll use the icon button. Inside of it we'll use the avatar. So for the avatar, we'll provide, for the image, we'll provide the os.user.profile image if it's available. Now as a backup, we'll provide also the name with os.profile, user. Here we have the display name. Now, in case display name is not available, which is in our current situation, it's optional, we 100% will be sure we'll be having the user.email. Alright, this is concerning the avatar. The BG will be primary. We'll keep the size as the default. Now for the button, we'll leave it for now like this. I guess, do we need to provide any? What I can do, I can provide also the BG to be primary, so they will be in harmony. Alright, so here it is. Now the size is a little big. I'll reduce it to 5. the default is 6. I'll make it 5. Now I need to do the same for the avatar, or there will be out of sync in terms of position. So this is much better. Now I'll wrap them in a tooltip. And I'll provide for the tooltip the text will be some HTML. Let's say span store load account. Let's put it in an H5. Then we'll be having a multiple element here. Actually, I'll create a special component for this, but just for testing now, I'll see how it will look. So where it is here, store load account. So what if I use span? Oh, it's too small. So let's get to the tooltip, which is in the UI component. Here we have set it to 1. Let's set it to something acceptable. 2 I think will be okay. All right, this is much better. Now let's remove the sign out from the header. Now later on the sign out will be inside in the popper. Once we click this avatar button, it will show a popper and we will have the sign out with a bunch of other information and links will be available to the user. So for now this is good. Now what I will do, I'll create a component. I'll create here quickly a component. So I'll create a constant. It will be account info, which will be a component. This component will use as a prop the user. So we'll get the user in the prop, and it will return a div. Inside of it there will be an H5 store load account. Then inside the H5 I will put 2 paragraphs. One that will contain the user.email. The other, it will contain the user.display name. Alright, but we have to make sure the display name is available before printing the P element, so it won't add an unnecessary space. So is check for user.display name. Alright, and if it's available, we'll add the user.display name. So let's try this component instead here of what we are providing, this instead the span. So I will need to use it as a component and provide to it the user prop, which will be os.user. Alright, so okay, alright, perfect. Now if I check the tooltip here in the button, just to make sure I don't have the second P, alright, which is perfect. Now I need to add some styles to this component. So what I will do is I'll export it to its own file. So I remove it from here and create a folder named header, which will contain component related to related to the header. Alright, inside of it I will create a file called accountinfo.js. Here I will pass the component. I will export default account info. Then I will import the styled from styled component by copying it here from the header. Alright, I will create a constant. I will name it styled div, which will replace the div here and will style all these elements. So it will be equal to style.div. Now for the H6 and P, we will remove the margin. We will set it to 0. For the P, margin top will be 4 pixels. The font weight will be normal. The font weight currently in the tooltip is set to bold. We want it to be normal. Now for the color, we use the var dash color dash light gray. All right, so okay, I think we've done here. Let's import this component into header. Now button, I'm not using it for now. What I will do, I will copy this prop here and we'll remove the account info. All right, use it again for it to be automatically imported. Now I'll use on it the user.auth.user. All right, so let's check, and voila, here it is. Perfect. Now we still have a tiny little modification here concerning this icon button here. Actually, it's displayed as a normal icon. It's not a button even. So we'll change this. So in our header also, here it is. We're using just an eye and adding the click event on a div that is wrapping the eye element. So we need the bars here. Let's import the icon bars as we did in the in the home page. So we'll copy this into the header, and here we'll grab the icon bars, plus we need also the font awesome icon. So we'll import this one too. Now with the font awesome icon, we can replace this I with the font awesome icon. Here we'll give it an icon with the FA bars, which is perfect. Now here, since we're adding a non-click on the div, it's better to be a button, so we can use the icon button. Now for the icon button, actually I don't need the font awesome anymore. I wasted some time, it's okay. I can provide directly the icon to the icon button with FA bars. So I guess we're done here, but let's make sure the size is appropriate for our situation here. So in terms of the size, it's okay. Now it's off the alignment because, as you know, the icon button needs some space. So what we will do, we will add an inline style sheet style, which we will add a margin left. It will be minus, let's say, 10 pixel. It needs to be inside. Oh, this needs to be camel case. So good. Let's add also 1 pixel. Okay, now it's good and it's working as expected. All right, this one too. All right. One more thing we need to add is in the products. Come on, in the book details, in the photos section, we have here a delete icon which now has disappeared. Let's give it a visit and see what is going on. So in the gallery, in the image component where I'm using this icon, as you can see, this was the old syntax. Now it has been changed, so we need to import. Let's copy from the header the icon import inside the image. Now we need the FA trash, the FA trash, and I'll provide the FA trash to a prop called icon. Now we have the loading set up correctly. Now we don't need the color. What we need maybe is BG. So by default it is dark, so we'll set the BG here to light because we're on a dark background. So we'll set it to light, and that's it. Here it is. Now here I need to provide the FA trash All right, not as a string. All right, oh, it's too big, so we can reduce the size to, now we're to, let's say 4. How about 4? Let's try it. All right, 4 can work, maybe a little bit small, but what about 5? 5 is okay. Now here, if I try to delete the image, I am warning you it will not work because I have disabled the cloud function, the Google Cloud function in my application. So it will return an error, but you will see how the loading will work. So if I click now, this is the loading and I get the error. All right, which is perfectly functional, smoothly animated. So it's good. As you can see, if you want to learn how to build this toaster here, I have a video for that. This toaster will persist everywhere. So now I am in the home page, it's still here. So this is a global messaging toaster. So if you want to learn it, I have the link for the video. And here, if you want to learn how to do this sidebar also, there is the video for the sidebar. And for the tooltip also, there is the video for this tooltip if you want to learn how to build it. All right, we're done here. One thing I want to fix is for the store lord account, the title, it is too much for a pop-up. I will go and reduce it to, instead of H5, oh, here I'm, oh my, it should be H6 anyway. So much better, it's much better. All right, so that's it. This is it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, give it a thumb up, I will appreciate it. And for more of this kind of tutorial, and if you are interested in building with me this application, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. There will be a lot more videos and the road will be a little bit long. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Take care.